If the Buffalo Bills really want to go on a run in this 2025 season, they need to get back to doing what made their offense dangerous in the first place, creating mismatches and forcing defenses into uncomfortable situations. That identity, that edge, has been missing. And if they're serious about being contenders, it's time to bring it back. Let's be honest, the expectations for this team have been sky high, and through the first chunk of the season, they've felt shaky. Sure, there have been flashes, moments that remind you of what this team could be, but consistency has been lacking, especially on offense. And a big part of that is because they've drifted away from what used to give them an upper hand, using their size and versatility to stress defenses. This offense needs to stop trying to be what it's not and start leaning into what it's built to do. Let's talk about what made this team tough to deal with in the first place. When Buffalo is at its best offensively, it's when they're using heavy personnel and forcing teams to account for both the run and the pass from the same formation. We're talking multiple tight ends, fullbacks, powerful offensive line sets, real old school, beat-you-up football, but with Josh Allen under center, which opens up everything through the air. That's where the mismatches live. When you've got players like Dalton Kincaid, Dawson Knox, Reggie Gilliam, and an explosive back like James Cook on the field together, you create problems for defenses. You can pound the rock, or you can pass out of those same sets. That's where the beauty lies, the unpredictability. But instead, what have we seen lately? This team came out of the bye, and instead of doubling down on what works, got overly cute. Against the Patriots and Falcons, the Bills had golden opportunities to control the line of scrimmage, to dictate pace, to wear down smaller, less physical defenses. And they didn't do it. They ignored their own advantage. It was like they forgot that they could actually impose their will when they choose to. New England was vulnerable at linebacker and safety, soft spots that beg for heavy sets and mismatches in the passing game. And Buffalo barely attacked those spots. 2 real plays using that look. 2. One went for 23 yards. The other for 20. That's it. Then came Atlanta. You're facing one of the lightest defensive fronts in the league. And you don't lean into the run game with heavy personnel? You don't punish that? That's inexcusable. When McDermott says the offense got too cute, this is what he's talking about. Not sticking to your identity. Not exploiting matchups. Not being smart. Because let's be clear, no defense is sweating 11 personnel from Buffalo right now. But ask them how they feel about defending 2 and 3 tight ends with James Cook in the backfield and Josh Allen under center. That's what keeps defensive coordinators up at night. The Bills need to do more of that. The bread and butter of this offense should be leveraging those big bodies, forcing defenses to pick their poison, and then punishing them no matter what they choose. And while we're on the topic of offensive identity, let's get into something that's been frustrating fans. The overuse of Keon Coleman. Look, it's not that Coleman has no role. He's got traits, and there's potential. But right now, he leads the Bills in wide receiver snaps by a wide margin, over 50 more than anyone else, and he's leading the team in targets. That's not just a bad stat. It's an indictment of decision-making. How do we get here? It's not about talent. It's about production, about performance. And Keon hasn't earned this workload. He's already been suspended twice, and when he's on the field, the efficiency just isn't there. A play here where there doesn't cut it. If this offense is going to operate at a high level, it can't revolve around a player who hasn't proven he can consistently win. And right now, that's exactly what's happening. So what's the alternative? More Dalton Kincaid. More Josh Palmer. These are the guys who are producing at a high level when the ball comes their way. You watch the film, it's clear. Kincaid is doing elite things in terms of route running and production. Among tight ends with at least 100 routes run, he's number 1 in yards per route. That's not just good, that's elite. And among all pass catchers, not just tight ends, he's 4th overall. Palmer is right there too. Top 15 in the league in yards per route among wide receivers. These are players making the most of their opportunities. Meanwhile, Keon, he's down in the 60s. That's not a player you build your passing game around. That's a player you work into the mix, not one you force-feed the ball. There's a stat from the Fantasy Points Data Suite that tells the story. Yards per target over expectation. Basically, how much value a receiver brings when you throw them the ball. Kincaid ranks 8th in the league. Palmer, 12th. Keon Coleman, 85th. That's brutal. That tells you everything you need to know. Throw the ball to guys who create yards. Create separation. Move the chains. That's not happening with Coleman, and it needs to change. Which brings us to another huge missed opportunity, the running backs in the passing game. It's crazy how little Buffalo has used James Cook, Ty Johnson, and Ray Davis as receivers. These guys are built to be weapons out of the backfield. Cook, especially, is a dangerous receiver. Yet through 6 games, the Bills running backs have just 17 catches. That's bottom-tier usage, 30th in the league in terms of target share to running backs. This isn't a personnel issue. It's a choice. The Bills have the talent. They're just not using it. And in a league where defenses are putting spies and mirrors on Josh Allen, you need to make them pay. You want to tie up an extra defender just to watch the quarterback? Fine. Now your light's somewhere else. Throw it to the backs. Run angle routes. Get them in space against linebackers. It's not just efficient. It punishes defensive strategy. And it's not like they haven't done it before. Last year, Buffalo was one of the most efficient teams in the NFL when throwing running backs. They just didn't do it often enough. Now, we're seeing the same pattern again, but this time the cost is even higher. You've got a quarterback facing more pressure in the pocket, less ability to escape, and not enough safety valves being used to punish defenses for overcommitting. This isn't about completely redesigning the offense. It's about recalibrating it around what actually works. Get back to the formations that force defenses into mismatches. Feature the players who produce at a high level. And use every weapon in your toolbox, especially the ones that the numbers and film are screaming for you to use more. If the Bills can do that, they can get their offense back on track. They can become a team that doesn't just rely on Josh Allen's heroics, but actually supports him with structure, with strategy, and with weapons that make life easier for everyone on the field. There's still time, but only if they're willing to stop trying to prove a point with underperforming players and start playing smart, mismatch-focused football. Defensively, the changes need to be just as deliberate. The biggest immediate priority is getting recent additions like Michael Hocht and Larry Ogunjobi fully integrated into this unit. Look, no one's claiming these guys are coming in to be Pro Bowl saviors. That's not the point. The point is they're solid, experienced, and, maybe most importantly, they're not rookies or practice squad players. That alone raises the floor of this defensive line. Over 60% of the snaps at defensive tackle this season have gone to players who either weren't on the main roster at the start of the year or are simply not ready for consistent starting reps. That's not sustainable. Ogunjobi brings something this group has lacked, a steady veteran presence who's seen it all. He understands how to handle inside zone, how to anchor against power, how to maintain his gap integrity in this single-gap defense. He doesn't have to be a game wrecker. He just has to be reliable. And when you've had to roll out undrafted free agents and practice squad call-ups week after week, reliability is a huge upgrade. Now imagine what this line looks like with Ed Oliver playing next to Ogunjobi. That gives you a pairing of athleticism and veteran poise. And when Daquan Jones is healthy, and if Dwayne Walker starts flashing, suddenly this rotation isn't just surviving, it's pushing back. Instead of leaning on Zion Logue or praying for a big play from TJ Sanders, you've got a core group that can hold the line. And that matters in a big way when you're facing offenses that want to test your ability to stop the run or create consistent pressure. Michael Hocht is another important piece. His addition could unlock layers in this defensive scheme that just haven't been available with the current rotation. He's athletic, he's fast, and he plays with serious energy. The kind of guy that lets you get creative with pressure packages, simulate looks, move players around, and keep offenses guessing. You don't want to rely on Landon Jackson and Javon Solomon to be playing meaningful reps every week. They're just not ready. Hoach takes that pressure off and gives you a Real option behind your primary edge rushers. He can rotate in, play off the edge, maybe even drop into coverage in disguise packages. The more you use him, the more dynamic this group becomes. This is all about improving depth, yes, but also about unlocking the full defensive identity that this coaching staff wants to play with. And that identity has been missing. The pass rush has felt one-dimensional. Teams aren't afraid of what Buffalo is bringing in anymore. That has to change, and bringing in veterans like Hocht and Ogunjobi is the fastest way to start turning that around. The linebacker room also needs reshuffling. Right now, Shaq Thompson has been the most consistent linebacker on the team, and yet he's not the one getting the lion's share of the snaps. Terrell Bernard has been solid, but the Bills need more. And with Matt Milano being a question mark physically and availability-wise, this team needs to stop waiting around and start finding practical solutions. Thompson is that. Whether it's in base sets, in rotation, or even redefining roles slightly, the goal has to be simple. Get your best players on the field. 24% of Buffalo's defensive snaps this season have come from base defense. That's your opening. That's where Thompson can be involved without a total overhaul of your structure. And honestly, maybe it's time to think even bigger. Maybe Bernard isn't the long-term answer at middle linebacker. Maybe that's where Thompson belongs. Is it drastic? Sure, but drastic isn't necessarily wrong if it gets results. This unit needs more physicality, more communication, more leadership in the middle. That's what Shaq brings. And if you're serious about tightening up this defense before a late-season playoff push, these are the hard conversations that have to be on the table. And then there's the cornerback situation, which might be the most frustrating of all. It's been clear for a while now that Tre'Davious White isn't the same player. He's trying, no doubt, but the burst, the confidence, the ability to mirror and close, it's just not there. He's doing what he can with what he's got left physically, but it's limiting the entire secondary. And the path forward is obvious. It's about getting Maxwell Hairston, your first-round pick, up to speed. The rookie hasn't played since late July. He's raw, he's inexperienced, but he's talented. And there's still plenty of time in this season to ramp him up slowly and make him a full-time contributor by the final stretch. That has to be the goal. Get Hairston practicing. Start working him into games gradually. Let him platoon for a few weeks. But by week 12, week 13, he needs to be your guy. Because the idea of going into the postseason with White as your starter is just hard to trust. You've already invested in Hairston. Now invest in getting him ready. This is the type of development that turns a good defense into a dangerous one when the games start to really matter. Safety is another area where the Bills just can't afford to keep doing what they're doing. Taylor Rapp has been nothing short of a liability this season. Whether it's missed assignments, poor tackling angles, or just being out of position, it's hard to keep defending what's happening on tape. It's not enough to just be available. You have to play well. And Rapp hasn't. Before we dive back in, make sure to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Your support helps us keep delivering the latest Buffalo Bills updates straight to your screen. And hey, don't hold back. Let us know your thoughts on today's news down in the comments. In a development that has sent shockwaves through the NFL, Miami Dolphins head coach Mike McDaniel reportedly made controversial comments about their divisional rivals, the Buffalo Bills, just days before their highly anticipated matchup. Sources close to the team claim McDaniel didn't hold back during a closed-door media session, allegedly questioning Buffalo's offensive strategy and even hinting that the Dolphins are clearly the smarter, better coached team. While official transcripts of McDaniel's remarks haven't been released, insiders suggest the comments have already fueled a fiery rivalry atmosphere in the locker rooms of both teams. He's definitely stirring the pot, said one league source familiar with the situation. You can feel the tension building. The Bills don't take kindly to this kind of talk, and you can bet they'll be fired up when they hit the field. The timing of McDaniel's remarks couldn't be more explosive. Miami enters the game with a strong season so far, and the Bills are looking to maintain their dominance in the AFC East. Analysts are now predicting that this verbal jab could either serve as a psychological masterstroke or backfire spectacularly, adding even more intrigue to the already high-stakes clash. Fans on social media have been quick to react, with hashtag McDaniel comments trending in both Miami and Buffalo. Some Dolphins supporters are hailing McDaniel's boldness as a sign of confidence, while Bills fans are calling for a crushing response on the gridiron. NFL insiders speculate that the head-to-head matchup could now carry an extra layer of intensity, as both teams may feel compelled to prove their superiority not just on the scoreboard, but also in the court of public opinion. Whether this rumor will translate into on-field fireworks remains to be seen, but one thing is certain. The Miami Dolphins and Buffalo Bills are set to clash under a cloud of heightened drama, fueled by words that may echo long after the final whistle. For now, all eyes are on Miami, where fans are bracing for what could be one of the most talked-about showdowns of the season. That's a wrap for now. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay on top of all things Buffalo Bills, make sure to subscribe and hit that like button. We'd love to hear what you think in the comments. See you in the next update.